All right, welcome back to another episode of Path of Purpose. Today I'm here with Eric. Eric is the founder at Thrive. Eric, thank you for coming on the pod today.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Would you mind just going into just describing to the listeners what Thrive is?
Yeah, of course. Thrive is the only community built for bootstrapped entrepreneurs. Bootstrapped meaning that our members are building businesses without typically raising venture capital. So like their own money or a revenue or like a loan that they'd have to pay back, something like that. Uh, Majority of companies, like over 95% of the world, are bootstrapped and would qualify for something like this. But we're a community. We're all about getting the right people in their corner. So we have an online platform where people can dive in and meet each other and do discussions. We do 4 or 5 virtual events every single week where people can come to and learn and grow their education wise, grow their companies, meet folks. And then we're starting to do a lot in person around the country to connect people. So it's all about community. Entrepreneurship is super isolating, particularly when you're bootstrapping. Nobody knows who you are. Typically, you don't have a ton of capital. It's really, really tough and frustrating. So we're all about making sure people don't feel alone on that journey.
Yeah. What sort of experiences led you to wanting to start Thrive?
Yeah, great question. So it's my second company. I started a business when I was 25 now. So I was in school at the University of Illinois. My friends and I started this change management consultancy called Census. Essentially what we did was change management for mid-market companies. So we would go into these 100-person businesses. CEOs would be like, we can't get people to get bought in the way we want. Employees would be like, we hate the people we work for. And we would spend 4 months with them and build what we called mission-obsessed teams. It's a ton of fun. I loved it. Did it for about 2.5 years total. About a year and a half in, we got just over 6 figures. We were selling these 20K projects, but we only ever had a 6 to 7 month cash runway at any one point. We'd basically go through the cycle that was close a 20K deal, buy flights for an on-site, run all the money on payroll, repeat. Just never had enough cash in the bank. My partner Michael and I basically determined we had a huge skill gap. We are great change management consultants, but we had no idea how to run a company. Didn't know how to manage cash. Did not know how to motivate our team. I couldn't figure out the consistency in the sales piece, and decided we needed some help. So I scoured the internet to try to find a group like I'm building now, and it just did not exist. We couldn't find someone that care about us because I wanted to stay bootstrapped. If people wanted to offer us angel investment, I was convinced that a check for 100K would do nothing to solve the problem I had, just extend our runway. And hired some guys, tried to grow it that way. It did not work. Ran the whole thing out of cash 9 months later. It was a huge bummer, but I took a job as the head of sales at this bootstrap startup in Philly, and ended up being just an amazing fit for me. Spent almost 3 years there, helped grow the company from about 5 employees to 20, 300K in revenue to about 2 million in revenue. We were bootstrapped, learned how to build and manage a team, manage money, operationalize a business, deal with in-person culture and dynamics, and just an amazing fit for me to figure out how to build a business the right way and bootstrap it. While I was working there, though, I sort of started Thrive on accident. We were selling to Series A and seed funded technology companies. So who I sell to now is a very different market, but I did not enjoy talking to the Series A startup founder. I felt we had nothing in common. I loved talking to the bootstrap entrepreneur. Totally reminded me of me. So
what would you say is the biggest difference of if you're comparing one to the other?
Yeah, mentality. I have friends who are head of sales at VC-backed companies, and if I tell them I'm having a customer acquisition problem, answer is almost always why don't you just spend money and run ads? I think people just don't, bootstrappers don't have a perspective of growing in a super high, fast-paced VC-backed company, and a lot of VC-backed companies, I think those founders are not good at going 0 to 1. So I think it's just a different mindset. Takes a different type of person to run them both. I personally don't think I have it within me to run a 200-person company. Not my thing. But when I was there, I basically started having conversations with these folks on LinkedIn for fun. And I was recording them and doing like these podcasts. I started like doing masterminds with my podcast guests. Eventually decided like this is what I want to be doing every day. Left my job in October of last year, immediately went full time into Thrive, and then we brought it to market on a subscription model about February 15th this year.
Yeah. Wow. So you mentioned like in your first job, there's like a part of you that like mentioned that you were like looking for something like this, but you couldn't find that. Like
Yep.
what was that part of you that was like that was craving? Like what were you craving? Was it community? Like what was that?
I just needed help. Like I would tell these investors that were like, "Don't you think 100K would help you?" And I'd be like, "No. Like what I need is to be around like 10 guys that are doing the same thing I'm doing and running as fast as me and like just can't figure this out. Like I'll learn from them. I guarantee we're not all bad at the same things."
Mm-hmm.
Or I would love to talk to somebody that's making like $1 million a year in revenue on a change management agency and has like made the mistakes I'm making. And like I want to figure out how they dealt with them. I kept
Yeah.
telling them like, this is not like a money problem. Like we're not having a problem closing deals. We're having a problem like on all these landmines I keep stepping on every month that just like cost us time and money. And like, it's because I've never built a company before, never worked anywhere before. And we just like could not figure it out. I didn't know anybody else that was bootstrapping a company. So,
Wow. So that point's really interesting, like the part about like wanting almost like the help and the community rather than the money. I feel like if someone's starting a company, if someone is like, oh, here's 100K, here's $1 million, like someone like an entrepreneur's eyes would be like, oh my god, like yes, give me that.
yeah. Yeah, it's that is definitely more common. I'm just like a huge believer that the right like 7 or 8 people in your corner will do more for the entrepreneur and the company than any amount of money.
Mm,
I think like money makes things easier, but it doesn't like solve. It doesn't certainly does not close like the skill gap. Like there's nothing that giving $1 million somebody will do to like help them run a business better.
yeah.
It's just gonna buy them more time. They can hire smarter people. Like money's great, but like I have like a great group of like advisors and people in my corner. Like there is no amount of money in the world somebody can give me to be like fire all these people.
Mm.
Just would fit down.
So did you get those people in your corner after was like when on the timeline did this happen?
Yeah, is when I basically started Thrive. When I was like in the ideation stage a couple months before I left my job and was doing a lot of this free stuff, I'm starting to trend like this is probably going to become a business of some kind. And I picked an advisory board of people that I had a personal relationship with. All 5 of them had bootstrapped their own companies.
Yeah.
But none of them had built community. I didn't care about that. I cared about um, picking people that I would be disappointed to let down. Like, who would I be
Mm,
gutted if I had to call and say I like ran this company? And I
yeah.
picked those people. They all have skills that I don't personally have. So I think they're great just for me to. And I didn't need to give them anything, right? They like believe in me. They believe in the mission. I'm not asking a
Yeah.
huge chunk of time in them. It's like if I call you and say I need help with something, I just need you to riff with me for 30 minutes so I can figure it out. And that's what they do, right?
Yeah. Wow. So then when you were doing like the change management consulting, where had not met them yet, or were
I
you just
had
look?
met
Yeah.
them. I hadn't thought about using them in this way. I was super active in like the Boy Scouts my whole life, so a lot of these guys I met in the Boy Scouts, and just didn't have like a good enough relationship with them in that way. Like at
Yeah.
that time, that it evolved, like or didn't recognize it. It's like my buddy,
Hmm.
who's now on my advisory board, he's a couple years older than me. He built and sold an escape room for like a couple $1 million. And he built it when we were like 15. I remember going to it being like, what the hell is this? Like, I've never even heard of one. It was like super new, like 2014, 2015. And
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it. I thought he was crazy. I was like, I know you like going to these, but like, this is weird. It was great. He built like a business that had never been built before. And like,
Yeah.
when I started thinking about like Thrive building a community like this that hadn't been built before, I was like, he knows how to like turn something into nothing when there's no precedent of building it. Like, it's the
Mm,
right person to like put on my side to deal with this. He was doing that at the time I was doing census, but like I didn't make the connection in my mind of like, what can the escape room guy help me with this? When in reality, it could
Yeah.
have helped me a lot. I just didn't
Hmm.
think of it that way.
Yeah. So when along the lines, like, did your perception shift of like, hey, I can like ask for help?
Uh, Running out of money was like a very humbling experience.
Yeah.
I think like we were pretty arrogant, like younger guys. Like we made 20K in our first 3 weeks, and I think that like gave me a skewed perception of like, damn, like we were going to be really good at this and build like a seven-figure business like, pretty
Yeah.
fast. And just like not true. We just got really lucky is the answer. And yeah, I think like running out of money, like we had to lay people off, like top 5 worst days of my life for sure.
Mm.
I just like wouldn't wish it upon somebody and like don't want to go through it again. I think it like very much humbled me, taught me a lot about how scary entrepreneurship can be, like how much risk there is to it. And I think
Yeah.
as I started ramping up in this company I became the head of sales at, like I just realized that like I'm not the smartest guy in the room. There are people way smarter than me on a lot of things, and I need to
Yeah.
not try to be good at everything. I need to stack people in my corner that can drive the bus in places I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds humbling for sure.
Yeah,
Especially like when you think it's gonna like go so well and it like you have a taste of how sweet it could be.
yeah, yeah. I mean, first day, like the money hit our bank account, it was like, holy shit, we're rich. Sorry, I don't know if I can guess on here, but I was
No,
like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
I was like, we're rich. Like, this is great. Like 20-year-old, like 20 grand. I was
Yeah.
like, yes, this is awesome. We weren't obviously, but like, yeah, it's humbling to like go from like how successful we were for
Mm.
even like a couple months to like just bare bones, nothing. It was humbling, but taught me, I'd say like more than anything I learned in school.
Wow. So then you run out of money, you lay off all these people, and then you walk into the the other startup where you were the head of sales at.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what's your mindset going into this? Is this just like right
Uh,
after?
it was right after like went to school, needed a job. I had interned with Adobe the summer before as like a consulting intern, and like great experience in terms of like learning, but like I hated it. Like it's like when I was able to talk to the CEO, I was like, I never
Yeah.
want to work there. Like,
If you work if
I
you work at Adobe, don't take offense to this
Yeah,
podcast.
right. It's like I had a lot of good friends from there that I still talk to, and like it was a great learning. I think it
Yeah.
just taught me that I didn't want to work in a big company.
Mm.
Like all my buddies are going and working for like Deloitte and EY and Accenture and places, and I was like, this is just not for me. Like
Yeah.
I'm like a builder. So when that opportunity presented itself, and it was like, hey, we haven't figured out the sales thing. We're making 300K and scraping by 3 people. Like there's a lot of opportunity here. I want to like live in Illinois. I want to like get out and like do something. And I was like, this is like a good chance for me to just like kind of reset my life a little bit and
Yeah.
go try this thing out. And yeah, it like took 6 months for me to like get that off my mind. It's like getting over a breakup, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like you're like trying to get it off your mind and like invest in something else. And then like as that company started to grow and like my skills got stronger and I started to get better at it, like my confidence in my own mind started to go back up again. Different type
Mm.
of confidence than when I was 20, but yeah,
Yeah. Confidence, not arrogance, it sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah,
S-
yeah, definitely.
So what was that you mentioned like you took 6 months off. What was that like what were you doing? Like what were your mental processes of like getting through that?
Uh, it sucked. I didn't enjoy it. Honestly, like my partners in my first company, we had a group chat, of course, we would text and, they had girlfriends, like now both are married. They would both be like, yeah, like, this is great. Like I get to watch like, a movie with my girlfriend like 3 nights a week. And I'm like, I have watched in the past 3 weeks every movie I've ever wanted to watch in my whole life. I've read like 9 books. I'm bored as hell. Like I hate this. I hate coming
Yeah.
home from work and having nothing to do. I miss it. Like it's like
Mm.
weird how yeah, like it kind of taught me like I like this even when it sucks.
Mm. Yeah.
And I kind of just like doubled down. Honestly, started like investing more into the agency I was at. Like was kind of on a track to like become a partner there and pieces like that. And saw myself doing that for a while. Like I was like, I'm not going to go like start another company right away. Like I think I have skills I need to like develop. So let me go invest in these and develop. So really just
Yeah.
like double down at work, helped me get through it.
So you're bored, and then you just like, did you feel like it was just time to go back in, or what?
Um, it just kind of like slowly happened. So I had been at like this company for like coming up on a year. We were doing like pretty well. Like I felt like I got a lot better at selling. We were selling these like 40K solutions. I had gotten a lot better at selling. I had gotten better at managing people. Um, I think like the negativity of like shutting down the company had like really worn off of me a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and I just like wanted to like try something. We were selling to like seed funded Series A tech companies, and I just like wasn't that motivated talking to like that Series A startup founder. Just didn't relate to him, and I just literally for fun to like fill some of this boredom gap. Like I started this like podcast thing
Yeah.
um, with entrepreneurs, and it's how I spent a lot of my like evenings during the week. It was like I looked
Yeah.
forward to like the free mastermind I would plan for 2 hours and run and not make $1 off of.
Yeah. Interesting. So it seems like there was like something in there was like a certain level of like emptiness in that, even though you were starting to do better again.
Yeah, yeah. I think I like still had this aspiration. Like I think I knew I had it within me to run a company. I just
Yeah.
didn't put the puzzle pieces together in the right order the first time. So it was like I think a lot better now. I'm smarter about this. Definitely like more humble about it. Like I think I could do this the right way if I stumble on something. I honestly think why like Thrive has worked the way it's worked so well comparatively to our first company is like I didn't really try to start a company this time. I
Yeah.
just like was doing this thing for fun and
Mm,
versus like I
yeah.
sought out. I wanted to be an entrepreneur when I was 20. Like that was my whole goal. Like, why are you doing this? Like to be an entrepreneur, which I don't think is like a great reason to build a company. This
Yeah.
one was like I was like actively feeling the pain that I was trying to find in my
Mm,
first company, and no one was solving it, and it just like fell into my lap. And I think like me not looking for entrepreneurship but finding it like just set myself up a lot better.
wow. Yeah. That's refreshing too. I feel like the world needs more of that, like people who are pursuing like what they find like passionate and what's relevant in their own life as well. I feel like so much of like, and it's also a challenge too, to be able to like, to be able to, or it's a privilege to be able to do that too. And I think some people, it's a challenge also when, uh, we're working like another job at the same time. And I feel like I'm curious what you think about this, but like to me, like when I'm thinking about this and like I'm doing my own thing too, and like for me, like the fear in my head was like, oh no, like now like I need to like do this on my own. And like I feel like it now that I'm
Yeah,
saying this, it's like it comes back to what you're talking about like Thrive and having that community, but yeah, like also making that shift from like working like full time and then also having the energy and creativity to like also put into something else.
yeah. It's it's tough to like even make the shift in your own mind if like you have a side hustle, for example, to like work for somebody else like 8 hours a day, go
Yeah.
home, work on your own thing at night. You like wake up tired every day. You like
Yeah.
work too late on your own thing, and I think people who are not entrepreneurs don't get it.
Mm,
Like my family, for example, when I like first started doing this again, they're like, "Why do you work until like 3 in the morning?" I'm like, "Well, mom, because like nobody clocks in after me."
yeah.
It's like I'll make as much money as like I put in. So,
Mm.
so I think, yeah, it's an interesting topic.
So what advice then would you have for like someone who's like considering like making that jump?
Good question. I would say like two things. One is you got to be ready to like do it. I do not think like I just want to be an entrepreneur is like a good enough reason to like quit your job and like try to figure it out. I would, and like 20-year-old me would disagree with that. But
Yeah.
like Eric, the guy humbled would tell you, you need to have an idea that's like working and like
Yeah.
people want to pay for it. I think is like a good
Mm,
thing. Um, like I had so many people engaged in this free group and so many people in the mastermind. I was like, I could get, I could make $2,000 a month tomorrow. Like if
Yeah.
I like needed to, I think I should like, make this money tomorrow. I felt so confident in that I was like willing to quit. I think if I had 0 members in a free group, but never done a mastermind, I was just like, I like bootstrapping and think other people want community, but I've never
Yeah.
validated it. Who knows? I might have like quit my job
Mm.
and ruin my life. So I would say like have
Yeah.
that like idea validated to where people want to pay for it. And then the second one, look, like not everybody will agree with this. I just like fully believe if you want to like build something meaningful, like you've got to be all in.
Mm.
There was nothing wrong with like building it on the side. Like I built my company on the side for like 6 months, but like when the decision came time of like, what do I want Thrive to be in 5 years? And I decided what I wanted it to be. I knew there was like a 0% chance I could do that working for somebody else.
Yeah.
That's when I decided to make the jump. So I think if you've got like revenue traction and good vision and like people to back you up and like you believe in what you're doing, like it depends a lot on your situation. Like go for it, right? Like
Yeah.
I decided last October, I was like, I want my parents' health insurance for 1 more year. I've got like people that want to
Yeah.
buy it. Like now is the time. Now is the time for me to go try this like out. And
Yeah.
if it like, I told myself if I crash and burn, I'll go get a job as a head of sales somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
Mm. Yeah. What, how do you balance then, like if someone's like in that job, or like for instance when you were in that job, how did you balance your like your energy in creating? Like did you wake up first thing in the morning and work on your side hustle before you like went to your 9 to 5, or like yeah, like how'd you manage that?
uh, no, I basically let's see, like we worked 9 to 5, but like it's like a 20-minute walk to work. I usually had to be there a little earlier because I was like leading our sales team. Um, I would basically like get home around like 6:30 ish every day. I would eat dinner and then I would work until like 3 in the morning
Wow.
on Thread and build it out. And basically like I had to be at work at like 8:45. I would wake up at like 8:20, like quickly shower and then sprint to work like through Center City Foot. Like the amount of time I
Wow.
literally physically ran to work. Like not
Yeah.
healthy, not great. But I just like knew I tried to like do in the mornings a lot. I'm like a terrible morning person.
Hmm.
I'm like tough to like get going in the morning. So I was like, this just doesn't work for me. I'm just gonna like work super late. I'm like a night owl anyway. So I think like whatever works for you in that regard, like
Mm.
make it work.
Yeah.
But you gotta be willing to like do more than 2 hours a week. Like I talk to a lot of people that aren't making enough money they want, but they're working 2 hours a week. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. What in terms of like how it felt to be doing like building Thrive on the side like late at night versus like building your change management consulting company because you wanted to be an entrepreneur, did it feel different in the building process?
yeah. Never once with Census did I felt like we had momentum. Like maybe the first
Mm.
day that we like closed those deals, but like that was just like when the reality sunk in 2 months later, they're like this is going to happen every month. Uh,
Yeah.
it really went away. The Thrive thing was like a continual build. It was not about money. We weren't even making money. It was like about like the mission and the excitement around it. And like I was putting this board together, and like I think a lot of people were like, dude, this is really cool. It's like solving something cool. Like you've got a cool personal story around it. Um, I think it just like there was momentum. It like felt real. It felt right the second time. The first one always felt like we were stretching. Like we never knew how to sell it. We didn't know how to pitch it. I never had a good answer to people being like, why the hell are you doing this? I just totally
Yeah.
different the second time.
They're like, what do you do for a living?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'd be like, yeah, I barely passed college because I skipped class to build this like change management thing. Like I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was talking about.
Yeah. Wow. So now Thrive, so you have like how's it set up? So I saw there's how we met, there's you're having an event in Austin for people who are bootstrapped entrepreneurs, but there's
Yep.
also a group that meets what, like monthly or weekly or
Yeah, good question. So Do a few things. We like host on a Slack for people to like have discussions that way. It's like all our members go into that, and then we do 4 or 5 like virtual events every week. We do a lot of like office hours of we have members, for example, that run like SEO
Yeah.
agencies, so
Did you
they'll
say
come in
four or
and like
five events a week?
virtual. Yep.
Wow.
So we'll do 2 that are office hours, like these people that have skill sets like SEO, for example, will come in
Yeah.
and I'll be like, can you give the same advice to our members that you would give to a paid client? And like they will, which is awesome. And Tuesdays and Thursdays we do webinars, like come and kind of like learn around this topic. And then
Yeah.
Fridays I do like a town hall open to the public. That's usually I riff with a member, kind of like this conversation. We'll just like riff on a topic, but I think like the
Yeah.
value of the community is measured on like, do I like the people in here? I think that's a
Mm.
good way for people to like get to know me without having to pay. So we do all that. We're starting to do a lot of this in-person stuff. So doing events in like Dallas and Austin in October.
Yeah.
We're doing events in Chicago, Philly, and New York City this month. So I'm a big in-person proponent,
Yeah.
big in-person guy. So just trying to get our way around the country.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, that's like a new thing that like we're dealing with now too, is like remote work, and like so much work now is remote. And it's like, even in Austin, like there's so many places that are popping up of like co-working spaces that you can pay like 500, 600 a month for, just to like be near people and like do your work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I hate working from home. I'll admit I'm not a remote work
Yeah.
pro. I'm just like, and again, maybe nature and like why I'm doing community anyway. I just like really thrive being around people. I think, like it was so weird to go from
Did
like,
you mean to put the word in there?
no, I did not, but I realized after I said it. That was good. Good call. Yeah, it was just, like that was the hardest part for me by a mile. It wasn't like selling or like bring something new to market. It was going from you close a 40K deal in an office with 20 people, like people go nuts. It's like,
Yeah.
I remember when we crossed 1 million in revenue for the first time ever at that agency, we like the whole team like popped champagne bottles. It was like sick. And like first day I like went up like 50 members, some in Thrive. I'm like, oh, who am I going to high five? My dog? Like it's like, this is
Yeah.
like, it's just so different. Like,
Yeah.
um, hybrid is probably like the right answer. Like I'm not pro, like just force people to go to the office every day, but I
Yeah.
miss being around like people and just the energy of building a startup.
Yeah. Do you notice that the energy is different then versus like at the events, the in-person events that you do versus like the meeting like for a town hall or something?
Yeah, 100%. Like the one we did in Philly in June, which was like our first event ever in person. It's supposed to be like 5 to 7:30. I think we got kicked out of the building at 9:30 because nobody would leave. Like it was
Yeah.
just like
Wow.
so people crave in-person stuff. You put like 100 people in a room that have similar missions and are just like passionate about meeting one another, and
Yeah.
they're having a good time. It's fun. Yeah, I think the energy is different if you do the event the right way, for sure. Not the virtual ones are great, but like um, it's almost cool as we do these to like you meet people online for like 2 or 3 months and then you see them in person. Like you just really hit it off. You kind of
Yeah.
know each other already, obviously,
Yeah.
but
So do you see yourself doing this in like 20, 30 years?
good question. Uh, I don't know. I have like a pretty big like vision for what I want this to do. I would say like in terms of like would Thrive get acquired one day? Probably. Like I would say that's like a cool milestone. Do I have like a timeline for like when that would happen? No.
Yeah.
I really want to be in every like major city in the country with like chapter heads like holding monthly events. That's like really important to me. I really want to do like in-person training for like founders and entrepreneurs. I
Mm.
really want to do like in-person annual summits for like all our members. I have like a very aspirational goal to like never chart, like basically I would love to like sell packaging to universities and make Thrive free if you use an EDU email.
Mm.
I didn't have like a ton of money when I was 20, but I'd love to help like aspiring entrepreneurs get
Yeah.
connected with the right people. Like how cool would it be if you're like 20 years old and you think the best way to like learn how to build a startup is go work for somebody. And
Yeah.
there's somebody in Thrive who like can't afford to pay somebody 150K a year, but like would totally take a like young hungry kid for 65K a year who like wants to learn how to build a startup and work in a startup. Like I would love to like be that like matchmaker I think there's just a lot like we can do to like put a little higher status on bootstrapping
Mm-hmm.
and really redefine entrepreneurship at this level. And I want to
Mm.
fulfill that before I leave. Like I don't have a
Before you
lot of people
leave
that build,
this
yeah, a lot
planet
of people
or the
that,
company?
well, yeah, the company. A lot of people that run communities, like they're building a community as like a funnel for their services company. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people like ask me that, like, what's the product? Like Thrive's membership isn't like pay $10 to become a member so I can sell you my like, $1,000 consulting. Like there's no consulting
Yeah.
services business on the other side of this.
Uh,
So, I think just like big vision of like what I want to do, like impact I want to be able to achieve. And, yeah, and we'll see what happens. Like, I don't know. I think this thing could go pretty far. A little bit more realistic than I was 20. I'm sure 20-year-old Eric would have
yeah.
told you we were going to exit for $600 million, but I'm just focused on the impact, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So then what? So walk me through that then. So you exit for $600 million, and then what do you do then? You're bored again, and I guess you got some movies and books to catch up on since the last time.
God, yeah. I read Alex Lieberman, like guy that co-founded Morning Brew. He made
Yeah.
like a great post about this a year ago. I think I don't want to misquote him, but I think he basically talked about how he's just super lost when he sold Morning Brew. He's like, this was my identity for like 10 plus years. I woke up every day and like in the order of like my home, my wife, my house, this, like it was that important. And like then it's just like move on from it. And he's like, it's tough. Like I think like founders that go through exits like that, like have a identity crisis almost, which like I
Wow.
haven't personally experienced, but I can totally see happening. Like if you wake up
Yeah.
every day and fulfill your life in that way, and then one day it's just like move on from it. I'm sure that's tough.
Wow. That's so interesting that that's like a phenomenon, especially with people having like so much money.
Right?
Like you'd
Yeah,
think that you
that was
wouldn't.
the cool part. That was the cool
Yeah.
part. He put in there. He's like, I've never been richer than I am right now, and more worried about money than I am right now. Like I just don't even know what to do. Like,
But so the other types of worrying because there's too much.
yeah, it's crazy, right? I don't relate yet, but I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating how like people will have their identity so wrapped up in like what they do and like
Yeah,
identify like, oh, I'm a salesman, or oh, I'm a whatever, I'm a mechanic, or fill in the blank. And it's interesting to see how the how someone can be so uh defined by that.
yeah. Attach their like whole identity to it. You're right, and it's how you explain it to your family. It's how you explain it to your friends. Yeah, you're right.
Do you feel like that'll be the same for you?
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Like all my, it was kind of funny actually. So I'm at my job. It's like January 2023. I'm doing this like this is like in let's say February 2023 actually. So for the past 30 days, I've been doing like all these like podcast mastermind things at night. Like I'm like falling in love with it. I'm like, dude, this is better than work. I love this.
Yeah.
Like I just geek out with these people. And some guy on the call that like I'm still friends with today, he's like, I'm surprised like your take on bootstrapping is like really interesting. He's like why don't you post on LinkedIn about this? I was like, I've only posted on LinkedIn like twice in my whole life. Like, I don't know. I've just never thought about it.
Yeah.
So then I started posting about it, and then like every single person at my work was like making fun of me. Like I remember like CEO making fun of me. Like everybody's giving me shit. Like,
Mm.
oh, like Eric Harrison, like the bootstrap guy, the bootstrap guy, the bootstrap guy, and like just making fun of me constantly. 2 months
Yeah.
later, they're like asking me how to train their reps, how to like post on LinkedIn because like I'm getting inbound leads off of this
Yeah.
stuff, and they're like not getting any traction. And it was so funny to go from like I post, I get 3 likes. I'm like frustrated by it because I'm like, I'm putting out, I feel like okay content, no one's engaging. Everybody in my work's giving me shit about this. People I grew up with are like, why are you posting on LinkedIn? Are you trying to be like a
Yeah.
LinkedIn influencer? Now it's like there's like a community of like active supporters, and like the turns have like
Yeah.
really tabled in that way. So I feel like it's like become a big part of my identity. Yeah, like I'm like all my friends in Philly, like know about it, but like people are like supportive in a way that like they weren't when I was 20 when I knew people was doing
Yeah.
this. So it's cool.
Yeah. I feel that too with like the LinkedIn posting, or even like when I started the podcast. Like when I started my podcast, I was still in college too. And like just some background information at the time, I was like, I was completely different, but I was like the president of my fraternity and like studying like business and then I like it was during that time when my dad, he got sick, and like that really forced me to like relook at like myself and like how I view life and like everything. Like it was honestly, that was like the start of my like spiritual journey. And like in that time I was like, oh, like I want to start a podcast. Like I've always loved to like just ask questions, and like this is a way where I can talk to interesting people I don't know and see what their experiences were like. And like when I was posting, my friends are like, what the hell? Like, why are you having like artists on and all these weird people? Like I'd show up to chapter and like people are like putting me down of like, cause I'm like following my passion. But I feel like that's also like a challenge with like uh, pursuing something different. And like it really forces you to like look at like, okay, like what's your priority? Like do you care about like putting what's important and what you think how you can contribute out there, or do you think it's important to like care about what everyone thinks about you and to have that stop you from doing like what you feel like you're meant to be doing?
Yeah, completely agree. I lived in a fraternity last my senior year that we were building census and same thing. Chapter.
Yeah.
It's like people are making fun of me. I'm like, can we like hurry this up? I'm trying to like get rid of this and build my startup.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like I like love them to death. But like I have friends who like look, they have a normal career, they don't love it. Like escape for them is like Thursday night you go out and get like trashed at the bar or something like that. And like I like going out and hanging out like as much as the next guy, but like they reached a point in like this journey where I'm like I can't wake up hungover on Friday. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
losing too much. Like I can't spend all Sunday on my couch. Like it's
Mm,
just not worth it. Like for me in that way. So
yeah.
I completely agree with you. I think you got to prioritize what you want. Like double down
Yeah.
on it.
In what you're saying too, I think that's really interesting. The point that you're getting at of like almost like your sense of purpose took over in like your priorities and was like, okay, I can't like I'm making a choice to like not do this rather
Yeah,
than being like, oh, I'm like trying to quit it, you know? Like it's almost
yeah,
like it sounds like to you that was like a no brainer. Like, oh yeah, I can't get shit faced Thursday. Like I have to like I was up till 3 last night and I got to wake up at 9 tomorrow.
yeah. It's just tough. Like I just think you got to decide what you want. And like you can't be one of these people that like do stuff like that, and then at the end of the month they're like the world's against me. That's why I didn't hit my goals. Like this is just really tough. It's like, well, no, like you weren't 2 feet in on it, and like there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. Like if you want to go do that stuff, that's like mentally freeing for you. Like do it, but like
Yeah.
know that it's contributing to where you landed.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's very understanding of you too. Cuz like in my own head I'm like so judgmental about that. I'm like, wow, if you do that like you're clearly not passionate about anything.
Yeah, yeah. It's tough. I mean, like I don't relate. I think you gotta let people find out on their own too. Like
Yeah.
I have like friends that are like interested in starting companies and like live that lifestyle. And yeah, sometimes I'm like, I can't believe you like aren't like trying harder to like convince us to like do what you're doing. I'm like, I like you have to make this decision to like do this.
Mm, yeah.
Like you're gonna have to hold yourself accountable and like be disciplined. Like I'm not gonna call you at 6 a.m. every morning to see if you're like working on your startup, you know? So
Yeah.
um yeah, I think it's just a choice everybody's gotta make. And yeah, I always told myself like if I ran out of money, but I like knew that I gave it my best effort, like I'm not gonna be like hold it against myself. But like if I didn't
Yeah.
work 9 days because I was hungover or something like that, and like I ran out of money, like I'm kind of to blame of that. Like
Yeah.
what could have happened if I gave those 9 days my fullest?
Yeah. Yeah, you can lead a horse to water.
Yeah, yeah, literally.
Yeah. Hmm. How how, like, it sounds to me like you're very self-aware. Like, what would you say has helped you to cultivate your self-awareness?
Um, it's a good question. I really think like I was not, when you talked about like I was not always this way, like very much relates to I'm a very different person than I was when I was building my first company. I think I was like arrogant, short sighted, like was not doing it for the right reasons, super money motivated.
Yeah.
Like watch the social network and thought I was gonna be rich, like stuff like that. And you watch the Wolf of Wall Street a couple of times and are like, yeah, I like that. I could see myself living that way.
Yeah.
And I think like just realizing like the world doesn't owe you anything, and
Yeah.
like life is what you make of it. And I have just got like really obsessed with, I think, people telling me what I need to hear, not always what I want to hear, but like what I need to hear
Mm,
in these companies has been like helpful for me. Like the people that meet my advisory board, like something they say a lot is like, well, like none of these guys are yes men. And I'm like, yeah, it just doesn't do me. If I throw an idea out, I want them to tell me like why, what I'm not seeing in it, like, and
yeah.
where the risks are that I'm going to like step on. Like that stuff's helpful to me. So
Like the
I think
blind
just like
spots.
lived experience, yeah, has helped me land here.
So in like the moment when it didn't work out, like how do like it there's a choice there. There's a choice to like feel bad for yourself or to blame other people. How were you able to see it for what it was and to continue forward?
Um, yeah, it wasn't easy. Like I was gutted. Like that. I guess like that. What we talked about of you sell your company and have to move on. Like I had to move on in the same way, and it's like I woke up thinking about that, not school, every single day,
Yeah.
for like 2 years, and just like didn't know how to like move on easily from it. Like I didn't know what else to talk about in conversation. Like that is what I like spent my day
Yeah.
doing. When I called my
Mm,
old co-founders, and like we were good friends, we'd been friends for 5 years. I didn't know what to talk about that wasn't about census. Like we hadn't talked like normal people in 3 years. We always talked about
yeah.
this company.
Mm,
So I think like uh, time helped. I think like finding something to be passionate about again helped. Like I'm somebody that I think always has to be. Like, if I sold my company for $100 million today, and people were like, "Damn man, you've got enough money to retire." I just couldn't do it. Like I think I
yeah.
just need to be like doing something that's like
It ain't
mission
600 million.
driven. Yeah. I need to be doing something that like excites me and like I believe in, and trying to find that helped me like get through that a little bit. But
Mm,
yeah,
wow. Also, yeah, I didn't mention this, but like that's nuts. You started that first company when you were eight, how old? 20, did you say?
it's like barely 20. Yeah, I just turned
So
20.
you're like a sophomore or junior in college?
Yeah, I think I just transferred to the University of Illinois as a junior.
Okay. So yeah, let's walk through that too then. So your freshman, sophomore, how come you transferred?
I had always wanted to go to U of I, like growing up. My dad would like take me to basketball games there. We lived about an hour and a half away. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to save money, like straight out of college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was like, I'm going to go to a community college. It's like 30 minutes from my parents' house, live at home for 2 years.
Mm,
And then, it was like, yeah, went toward the school a couple times, like applied, got in. It was like, yeah, I just always saw myself going here. Would love to go here. So I just made the decision that way.
yeah. Huh. So in this time, so that means you joined the fraternity once you were like a junior or whatever, once you transferred?
Yeah, I was like super anti being a frat. I like thought they were like silly, like didn't have time for it. And my buddy was the only person I knew at U of I. He was like VP of a frat house, and he's like, "You want to come over and hang out?" And I was like, "I don't want to join a frat." And he's like, "Well, like you don't know anybody at U of I. I'm just trying to like give you people like you don't have to join the frat. I'm just saying, do you want to like come over and hang out?" I was like, "Sure." So I came over. Like I hung out with him. There's a lot of people at the house. It's like small, like 20-person frat. And next thing I know, I'm in like the conversation with the president for 3 hours. They orchestrated this, but like good on them, good recruitment. But like he just like super genuine guy. Everybody I met there that day was like great. And he's like, he said like, Adam told me you don't want to like join this ride. And I was like, I'm just like against it. And then he was like super like, I'm not trying to convince you to join. He just got to know him really well. Next thing I know, I'm like there like 2 or 3 nights a week. Like then they gave me a bid. I'm like, shit. Like, ah, man, here we go. I actually like these guys. Like, dang it. All right.
Damn. Thrive 1.0.
Yeah, literally.
Wow. So you're there, so now you're a junior, you're joining a fraternity, you're taking classes, and you also start a change. Like, what does a 20-year-old know about change management consulting?
So I grew up my whole life in the Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts has an honor society, basically, that people can get elected into. And then they have like their own governance model, like ranks you can like go up. So I started taking on leadership positions. So I was like 14, 15. In 2019, I was like the equivalent of like the national vice president for this honor society. So like it was like that year too. So it's like a lot. But like every single weekend, like on a plane, go to a new city, like go to,
Wow.
like public speak. But my best friend who I'd met through scouting had that role the year before me. His name was Michael Kidd. And him and I built this consulting program for the Boy Scouts, basically, for the Honor Society and the Boy Scouts to like go into local lodges and help them get their membership right, help the like kids be better leaders, things like that. And like we built up this like it was all volunteer, but like built up this like 80-person team. It was going super well. These were like the fastest growing lodges in the program. And then like all these people came up to us and were like, hey, you two are like excellent at this like change management thing. You're excellent at running this big org. You guys ever thought about like trying to do it and make money on it? And we were like, no, we've never thought about that. So then like we just started noodling of like, I don't know, could we get a client? Like, let's go try.
Wow. And you were how old doing that?
20.
Okay, so you're still in the Boy Scouts when you're 20?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this honor society. You can basically be like a youth until your 21st birthday.
Okay. Wow. That is, I've never heard of a journey like that. That's so interesting too. That's so unique though. That's so unique and so interesting. And it's interesting also to see how like you went from like Boy Scouts doing this thing and then like making a business out of something that you were good at, but it seems like you weren't necessarily passionate about it.
No, it would, don't get me wrong, it's like fun, but like I wasn't from the point I was 16 years old, like, God, I can't wait to be a change management consultant. Like we just like did it and like landed a client. And we're like, oh, maybe we are good at this, you know? And like, I think that was like a hiccup in our first company is like Michael and I wasn't like, if Thrive was going out of business, say I would fight like tooth and nail to like, I would drive Uber if I had to. Like, I never felt that way in my first company. Like, I wasn't connected to the mission in that way, which is probably part of it. So it was crazy journey.
Yeah, that's like I feel like that's a really good indicator too of like would you drive Uber for what you're doing? Not that there's anything wrong with Uber, but like, are you willing to like make ends meet in order to like pursue what you feel called to do?
Yeah. I think it's like connected to what I mentioned, like you got to be all in. Like, I just think you got to be willing to do whatever it takes to make your business run. If it's what you want, like if keeping this afloat is what you want, then like do whatever you have to do to like, don't be embarrassed about it. Right. Like 4 years from now, if you make a bunch of money and you're like totally living out your dream and your friends, even if they make more money than you, are completely miserable at their 9 to 5, then like you're the winner. Like,
I feel like it makes the story more compelling too.
Yeah, everybody loves hardship. Like good. Yeah, you think about like good stories. It's like because they overcame something and it's not interesting to hear somebody that like made money on day one and just never stopped.
I feel like I was reading. I forgot what I was either reading a book or I was listening to like Robert Greene talk. Do you know who Robert Greene is?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and he was talking about, it was like something that was in his book Mastery, and he was talking about how how like it's almost a curse to have that success early on and to have it easy, because then like later on when you have a challenge, you think you have like the golden touch, and you start to
Yeah.
lose faith because you haven't had the adversity to like build through.
Yeah, adversity is really important too. Like teaches you a lot. I think like yeah, people have never experienced adversity. Like the longer you go without experiencing it, the harder it becomes. It hits you. You're not prepared for it. I
Yeah.
think you're spot on that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I think back to like for me like a moment like one of my like defining moments was like in that time, like right, I was telling you like when I started the podcast. So it was March of my no, not March. Yeah, it was March of my junior year of college. Um when my dad, he got diagnosed with late stage esophageal cancer. He ended up passing away 9 months later. This was a few years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
And it's all good. Thank you. And uh like in that time I was like studying finance. I wanted to be like a hedge fund manager, like when I grew up, and like president of the fraternity, like going out partying all the time, like bullshit stuff, like I was doing all the things that I was doing was like just to like satisfy my ego, like going out trying to get girls because like then I can feel good about myself if I can get laid, like stupid shit. And I realize I'm cursing now. I hope I don't get demonetized.
I
Not that
guess
I'm
I started
monetized.
it,
Not that
so
I'm
I
monetized.
apologize.
I'll have to say no. This episode is not meant for children.
Yeah, please don't watch your child.
But yeah. So in that moment, it was like him getting sick, and because his diagnosis was terminal. So once he told me, I was like, wow, this is like the end. And now like every moment that we have now is like this is a gift to be able to spend with him. And like that like really forced me to like reconcile how I was living, or not reconcile, but reconsider how I was living my life. A person who's going out and like busy every single second of the day, going out drinking at night, chasing girls, like there's no time to process grief. There's no time to like do anything that's fulfilling or meaningful. And like that, there was a moment in there where I was like, I'm gonna do this podcast. And that's when I started doing that. But that I feel like that adversity, without that, like I wouldn't have the perspective. I was like, oh, why would I need to do something that's fulfilling? Like I can just like do this forever. But like in those moments where like when shit really hits the fan, then it's like, is this something that you still care about? Or is this something that you can drive Uber for if like you're not making money? Like, is this something like if my house is on fire, am I going to run back in to like grab my whatever, my kid
Right,
or dog
right.
or
Good,
hopefully not
good.
either.
Yeah, well, good for
But
you for like pushing. That's a tough thing to like push through, but I'm sure this platform, just like talking to people, has uh, helped as well. Like get your own story out there.
yeah, I feel like so much of like who I was prior to that was like bottle everything up, like don't tell anyone. And like even at the time when it was happening, it was like I didn't talk to anybody. I felt like, because like if I tried to talk to somebody, I felt like they would they would just feel bad for me. And I feel like I wasn't like being fully seen and fully present with. And like that has honestly been like a huge part of my journey. And like from there becoming like a death doula, and then starting this a mindful company. But um yeah, I felt like when I was sharing things, people, they weren't being really present with me, because they're like, oh, like, because when like if I tell someone, if I'm like, oh, my dad's dying, they're gonna be like, oh fuck, like I feel bad for you. They're
Yep.
not gonna be like, oh, I really want to, like, unless they're like, I feel like pretty spiritually evolved, they're not going to really just sit with you and be present with you unless they've like gone
Right.
through the ringer and been there themselves. Um, so yeah, I think that I forget where we were going. Platforms talking about this. Yeah, I didn't really have anyone to talk to during it. Like even like I had my sister on the podcast a few weeks ago, and we talked about uh, our own experiences of losing our dad for the first time since he passed like 3 years ago. And even with her and even with my mom, even though we all lost someone who was in our family, it was like the experience of loss was still so unique for each of us. And uh so and because of that, like also isolating. But I found that like once I moved to Austin and finding community here in different groups, such as like I lead like a small group at my church, or like having other friends, or like stuff like Thrive. Like I think that's why I think once you reached out to me, I was like, this is different. Like this guy is like, yeah, he cares about what he's doing, but he also is like doing something that is meaningful. So I think it's cool that what you're doing, and I think that the world just needs more community. It needs people to be able to talk to each other, and like whatever, if the US is a place that's like more capitalist and people need a business environment to talk about their feelings and what's going on in their life, then like what's wrong? There's nothing wrong with that. Like that should work
Yeah.
well. And
Should be encouraged. Yeah.
yeah, it should be encouraged for sure. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah, the loneliness message like resonates with me, resonates with other people. I used to like our cover photos and like LinkedIn on like anybody that is involved. Like it used to be this like big, I don't remember, it was like a big pitch about like why don't we stopped all that, started putting like you are not alone, like the whole message is like about that, and like people just started really resonating with it. And yeah, it was I think that's like the big value like we have to people. Like when somebody's like, what am I going to get?
Yeah.
At Thrive, I'll usually flip it back. I'm like, I'll tell you for good, fair enough. Like, tell me how it feels like bootstrap this company, like from your apartment by yourself. Like, if you love it, then like, I actually don't think you'd be like a good fit.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, it's super isolating and like, I question myself all the time and like, just wish I had people to talk to. But yeah, you are a perfect fit for this. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I think also too, the way that you're doing it, of like you mentioned, like not having a funnel, right? I think that lowers people's guard to it too. Like I feel like nowadays, like there's so many like self-help gurus out there of like doing something, then they like have a funnel into like a course or like whatever. And it's like,
God, if we ever sell courses, you personally have permission to like hire a hitman to come after me. But no, there's this guy Murtaugh gets in Thrive, and he's like, dude, please don't ever build courses. Like, I hate these like Instagram course people. I'm super passionate about training. I'm like very passionate about like in-person like enablement and training. The course thing, I just think is BS. Like, I've never taken a course that changed my life ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I know some people that have taken like expensive, like 10 grand, 15 grand courses. It's like, it's a marketing thing for sure. But the point I was trying to make was I think it like when it's less exclusive, like maybe not exclusive is the right word, but when it's like available, or maybe not available, but I'm trying to think of the right word. I don't know. It seems like the way that you're doing it doesn't like raise someone's guard, like it allows someone to say, oh, like this seems like this guy, like this, he cares about what he's doing. This group, people seem like they're happy. Like it's not like a crazy expensive price. Like, yeah.
I appreciate that too. And when people bring that up, like this woman, Melissa, who's like been a member almost since we started, like pretty close to the start, made a post about us like 2 weeks ago, and she tagged a couple communities that she's in. But like the note she put on ours was that like I've never tried to upsell her anything, which is like true. Like the community is the product, and people like grow me. Like what comes after this? Like what's the product? I'm like, getting connected with the right people is the product. Like you're gonna come in here and like we're gonna get the right people in your corner. Like eventually we'll probably sell in person like training and stuff like that. But like there's not like there's no like get rich quick scheme behind this. Like just trying to like help people, So yeah, I'm passionate about that. Like I'm money conscious. Like I'm sure a lot of bootstrappers are. Like I do not think things like this should cost thousands of dollars a year. I think that's like crazy. And I think this is like a cool way to build your business. I'm just like, these people are so passionate. I've like literally can't think of like a bootstrapper I've met where I was like, yeah, it's like a bad person like running this thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just like they're always good people, like good
There's
mission, good
nobody selling
purpose, and
courses.
yeah, those those the course creators probably raised money. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I just am super passionate about helping those people and think it should not cost a lot of money to get the right people in your corner
Yeah.
or feel valued.
Yeah. Cool. All right, dude. Well, I think that's a good place to end. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation and this episode. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. You have such a cool story and platform too. So I hope you keep doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.